Welcome to Malifaux University. 401. Damage, Healing, Killing, and Demise Abilities. Regardless of what strategy or schemes you play in a game of Malifaux, there will always be an element of violence. Sometimes that is the point of a strategy or scheme, and sometimes it will be your opponent's efforts to keep you from reaching your goals. In this video, we discuss the detailed aspects of damage, healing, killing, and demise abilities. Every model has a health track on its card that shows its maximum health. Most masters are in the 10 to 12 point range, while some can take 13 or 14 points of damage, while some minions have only a couple points on their health tracks. When we speak of suffering damage, we are talking about the amount that a model's health is actually lowered. If a model's health was not lowered by an attack or game effect, it did not suffer damage. This can differ from damage inflicted, because while an attack may do 2 or 3 points of damage, the targeted model may be able to reduce that damage through various means and not suffer that much damage. If a game effect ever refers to damage suffered, it means just that, the damage the model actually suffered and not necessarily how much damage was originally inflicted. When taking damage, a model's health can drop to 0, but not below 0. If a model is at 2 health and suffers 3 damage, it really only suffers 2 damage, because the last point that would put it at -1 health is just ignored. When a model's health reaches 0, it is killed, which we'll discuss later in this video. A model may not deliberately suffer damage that reduces its health to 0, even if it is controlled by another model or player. If Bert Jebsen were already down to 1 health, he would not be able to pay the cost of 1 health for his reckless bonus action, so just wouldn't be able to use that action. Even if another model compelled Bert through an obey type action and told him to do it, he still wouldn't be allowed. Of course, before a model can suffer any damage in the first place, you have to determine how much damage is being inflicted. If a game effect has a static profile for damage, such as suffering 1 damage for Black Blood or in many shockwave attacks, then that's it. If there's a variable profile, a damage flip must be made. Damage flips are not a duel, so anything that refers to duels doesn't affect them unless they specifically say they affect the damage flip, such as the focused condition. The most common way of affecting the damage flip is with accuracy fate modifiers, resulting from the difference between the attacker's duel total and the defender's duel total, which is usually arrived at by adding the stat of the action to the value of the final card in the duel. If the two totals are the same, that puts a double negative modifier on the attacker's damage flip, which means she will flip 3 cards and must take the one with the lowest value. If the difference is from 1 to 5, the attack has a negative modifier, which requires her to flip 2 cards and take the one with the lower value. If the difference is from 6 to 10, then it's a straight flip with no modifiers, and the attacker flips just a single card, which usually may be cheated. If the difference is 11 or more, then the attacker has a positive modifier in which she flips 2 cards and may choose either of them. The attacker may also cheat the damage flip when there's a straight flip or positive modifier, maybe because both cards she flipped were not the value she was hoping for, but like always, cannot cheat when there is a negative modifier or if she flipped the Black Joker. Regardless of how many cards are flipped for whatever reason, only 1 card remains in the duel or in the damage flip, and the others are discarded. Another way a damage flip can be modified is with a Soulstone. Normally, only Master and Henchman models can use Soulstones, but some game effects can break that rule, such as the Hang's Attuned ability, or the Desperate Measures ability on Dashiell Barker Butcher. If a model that can use Soulstones uses one before the damage flip, it puts a negative modifier on the flip, which can make it a triple negative modifier in the case of a tie, a double negative when the difference is 1 to 5, a single negative modifier in the case of a difference of 6 to 10, and which cancels out the positive modifier in a difference of 11 or more, leaving a straight flip instead. Once the damage flip is settled, the value of the final card in the duel determines which number in the variable profile takes effect. If the card is weak with a value of 1 to 5, it does weak damage, which is the first number in the variable profile. If the card is moderate with a value from 6 to 10, it does moderate damage, or the middle number. If the card is severe with a value of 11 to 13, than it does severe damage, the number on the right. If the game effect generates blast markers, the target of the attack suffers the damage flipped, but any models within the blast markers take the damage of one tier lower. If the original damage is weak, or only 1 point of damage, the blast markers do just 1 damage. If the black joker appears in a damage flip, it does no damage and generates no blast markers. If the red joker appears, it does severe damage plus 1. The plus 1 does not transfer to any blast markers, if any. In this Breath of Fire example, if the red joker appeared in the damage flip, the target of the attack would take 5 points of damage, 4 plus 1, but anyone in the blast markers would still take just 3 points of damage, the regular moderate level for this specific attack. See video 209 for detailed examples of blast markers in use. After damage is inflicted, it might be reduced unless the game effect says the damage is irreducible, in which case it ignores all ordinary means of reducing it. Unless otherwise stated, game effects cannot reduce damage to 0. Revisit video 204 for different conditions that can reduce damage, like shielded, and video 308 for abilities like armor and incorporeal that do the same. Once the amount of damage to be inflicted has been determined and the damage has possibly been reduced, a model that can use Soulstones can use one to further reduce the damage suffered. A Soulstone used this way allows the player to flip the top card from the Fate deck and reduce the damage by 1, 2, or 3, depending on the strength of the card. This is one of the few ways damage can be reduced to 0, but this is also one flip that the player is not allowed to cheat. If the Black Joker appears in this flip, no damage is reduced, since the Black Joker counts for 0, and if the Red Joker appears, 4 points of damage are deducted, since it counts for severe plus 1. To recap the rules about damage, damage inflicted is not always damage suffered. If a model's health is not lowered, it is not damaged. When a model's health is reduced to 0, it is killed. A model's health cannot drop below 0. A model usually cannot choose to lower its own health to 0. The damage sequence is: a Soulstone before a damage flip puts a negative modifier on the flip. Determine the amount of damage inflicted with accuracy fate modifiers as needed. Reduce damage with actions and/or abilities. A Soulstone after the damage flip can reduce the damage by 1, 2, or 3. If a model losing health is damaged, then a model below its maximum health that gains health is said to have healed. Like damage, if the total amount a model would heal is ever adjusted to 0, then just stop. A model does not heal 0. There's a specific sequence to the healing effects, as many game effects may become involved in the healing process. If an area effect heals several models at once, go through the healing process completely for each model one at a time. First, we determine the amount to be healed. If the action or ability says heals 1 or heals 2, then it's simple. Something like Kurai and Koku's Soothe Spirit tactical action, though, has a variable profile of 1, 2, 3, so that flip would happen to determine what number we're dealing with. The next important phrase is would heal. Some models have actions or abilities that kick in now, before the healing actually takes place. Type would heal into the search bar of the Crew Builder app to see what some of these look like, but a popular example is Jedza. Her Inevitability of Death ability says that when an enemy model would heal, Jedza can choose for that model to instead suffer equal damage. Depending on the action or ability, this could stop the whole healing process right here. Many of the new returned keyword models in the Madness of Malifaux book have would heal abilities. If there are no would heal effects to resolve, then check the model's maximum health. A model currently at its maximum health cannot heal, and the healing effect now fails. Assuming some healing occurs, the next step is to resolve any when heals effects. Von Schill, for example, has a survivalist ability that says when this model heals, it heals an additional +1 health. That +1 is added now, and is not considered during the previous steps in case it might have mattered then. Step 5 is when you finally raise the model's health. If this would take the model beyond its maximum health, the excess is just ignored. Just like with damage, you can't lower a model's health below 0, and you can't heal or raise it above the model's maximum. Step 6 is the After Heals effects, which may involve other models, such as Jed's Chronicle ability. A simpler example is on Sloth's card. His Drawing This Out ability states that after an enemy model heals, it gains a Sin token. The sequencing of these steps makes it clear that abilities like these have no effect if the model doesn't actually increase its health. If Kurai was going to heal a model 2, but Jedza caused that model to suffer 2 damage instead, Sloth's ability would never come into play, since no one healed. The last step concerns excess healing. I know step 5 says any healing beyond the model's maximum health is ignored, but only unless it's not, because weird. An example of this situation is Barbaros and his unique Broodfighter ability. If he's already at maximum health when he activates, this excess healing becomes a free movement for a nearby friendly model. When a model's health is reduced to 0, it's usually killed. Some game effects can instantly kill a model too, but either way, there's a sequence to the killing. If the model's health is reduced to 0 and it has a healing effect, do that first. If it's healed after being reduced to 0 health, it doesn't count as being killed and is not removed from the game. Any other game effects that counted on the model being killed do not happen. If a model is killed from some instant game effect, such as the execute trigger on a Bayou Gator's Mighty Jaws attack, healing does not save it, and the model really is killed. If the model does not heal back to above 0, but has a replace effect, do that next. You might see this with Lucas McCabe Relic Hunter and his Demise Dismount ability, which replaces him with Lucas McCabe Dismounted Hunter. Any other game effects that use the words when, if, and after the model is killed, then take effect. Examples of these are on the Killer Late Fees trigger for the Archivist's Inaudible Whisper attack, which bypasses Demise and Hard to Kill abilities. Leviticus's Death Touch attack heals him if the attack kills the target, and the Spray of Filth trigger on the Bleeding Disease attack for Hamlin the Piper gives Blight tokens to models near the killed model after it is killed. The Reveal condition for the Dig Their Graves core rule scheme is another example of an after-killing effect. If the healing effects don't bring the model above 0 health, it's not replaced. When, if, after effects are applied, and it's still killed, drop any appropriate markers into base contact. Living, undead, and beast models drop a corpse marker. Construct models drop a scrap marker. Models that could drop both markers drop only one, chosen by the player controlling the model. If a model does not have the living, undead, beast, or construct characteristics, it doesn't drop any markers when it is killed, unless something on its card or another game effect specifically says otherwise. With markers in place, remove the model, its card, and its upgrades from the game. Any tokens the model had may have special rules about where they go, but if not, they are removed from the game as well. Refer to the rules specific to those tokens to see what to do with them. Often, an important question is, who gets credit for killing a model? Models are considered killed by the model and crew that generated the action or ability that killed them. If a model is killed by a condition like burning or poison, or a hazardous terrain effect, it just dies, and no one gets credit for having killed it, even if another model gave it the condition or created that hazardous terrain. If a model's action or ability says it inflicts damage from a condition, such as the Immolate attack on Riva Cortinus, Luminary, then the model really is the one doing the action, and not the condition. The condition is mentioned only in case the model being damaged has ways of reducing or avoiding that specific type of damage, such as Carlos Vasquez's Fireproof ability, which reduces damage from the burning condition. Some models can move or cause other models to walk, such as the White Rabbit Company's Beckoning Call, or the Beckoner's Lure. If a model's game effect causes another model to walk off terrain with height and fall far enough to do damage and kill the target, that falling damage does count. The model that caused the fall gets credit for having killed the target. Some models have a final game effect that comes into play once they are killed. These are listed as Demise Abilities and have specific names in parentheses. Some Demise Abilities heal the model, such as the Demise Agony ability on both versions of Hamlin. Remember, if the model heals like this, it doesn't count as having been killed. Maxine Agassi, Monomaniacal, has the Demise Revivify ability that places her on the center line and heals her. Other Demise abilities affect other models, such as the Demise Upheaval ability on Sandeep Desai, Font of Magic, which gives the staggered condition to enemy models near markers near Sandeep when he dies. Or the Demise Unbalanced ability on Victoria Chambers, which buffs her twin for the rest of the game when either of them is killed. Still, other Demise abilities drop markers like Old Major's Delicious Bacon, or create terrain, like Snowstorm's Frozen Heart. The effects will vary from model to model, so the important step is to read the card carefully and apply the effect at the proper time, since it may mean the model isn't killed at all. That's the overview of damage, healing, killing, and demise abilities. Pick up a printable set of all the markers and tokens you need to play Malifaux in the Wargame Vault. If you haven't already, join our Patreon for early, ad-free access to all new content, and be sure to visit the Malifaux University gift shop for the latest in Malifaux-themed shirts, hoodies, drinkware, and more. Links are in the notes below. And remember, play friendly games, keep it simple, and have fun.